Questo è un luogo che genera dialogo,
Qualcuno che si impegna, che si batte.
che approfondisce la conoscenza e sostiene la fiducia. È un crocevia dove si incontra chi desidera il vero, il bello, il giusto e il bene. È una testimonianza di speranza nel cuore ferito, del presente. E tutto questo esiste anche grazie a te.
Buon pomeriggio a tutti, benvenuti a questo nostro incontro che ormai ha una lunga tradizione nella storia del meeting. Negli ultimi anni Joe Weiler ha sempre scelto di indirizzare il suo intervento per ciascuno di noi prendendo le mosse dal tema evidenziato dal titolo del meeting. Innanzitutto voglio ringraziarlo ancora una volta perché quest'anno, senza entrare in dettagli personali, per essere qui personalmente ha fatto un certo sacrificio, anche se ieri è riuscito a salutare Papa Leone. Poi do il benvenuto ai presenti, do il benvenuto ai collegati, numerosi collegati in streaming, saluto anche con cordialità particolare coloro che seguono Joe Weiler nella lettura continua della Bibbia durante l'anno, il gruppo dei lettori affezionati italiani, ma quest'anno abbiamo anche tra noi un gruppo nutrito di lettori polacchi. Questo per dire che
we have Bible readers from Poland.
mi interessa.
And I'd like to remind you, as I always do, because it cannot be taken for granted, I'd like to remind you of the deep friendship and common work by Joseph Weiler to deepen our knowledge of the Bible and to rediscover every day in these very difficult, dramatic times, and I'm talking about the horrors of the new trend against the Jewish. Well, it is important to talk about the friendship and brotherhood that exists between us and the Jews. So it's a surprise every single time. It's a way to understand better the history that we share. And this helps us not to be distracted, as we often are when we experience the grace of this meeting. Well, the surprising aspect of the title of this meeting, Love that Moves the Sun and Other Stars, turns into plural, the loves in the Bible. A first theme that we will have to tackle is to be clear on what kind of loves we are talking about. Then there is a second theme, there is a third theme. The second theme is what can we discover in the Bible that is original in this relationship, in this unique relationship, in this real personal relationship between man and God. What does the Bible say about God's love? What does the Bible say about the love, man's love towards God and towards man? Joseph Weiler, whom I thank from the bottom of my heart, for the next 50 minutes will take us through these themes. Thank you.
Era delicato di non far ricordare che nella Bibbia è sempre.
Well, in the Bible, it's always the youngest brother who is the preferred one. I'm always very, very happy to be here with you. I don't see you because I've got the lights in front of me, but, well, maybe it's better this way.
Prima di entrare amore sulla Bibbia vorrei.
Before dealing with the theme of love in the Bible, I'd like to talk about love. I don't want to define what love is. I'm just going to explain how I'm going to talk about love in the Bible. I can ask Father Pino, what's your favorite ice cream? I love strawberry. I love vanilla. I use the word love. I could have said I like strawberry. I like vanilla ice cream. Let's take another example. Father Pino says, I love my job, which is something more serious than talking about ice creams. But he could have said, I like my job a lot. So this is not the kind of love I want to talk about. If I tell my daughter, I love you, I'm saying something else than just saying I like you. So, well, this love I want to talk about is a very strong emotion that fills our souls. It's not just something that we feel randomly, and it has a certain characteristics. The strength of this emotion, which is based on a relationship, so it's love towards someone else, towards God, towards another human being. A love that is, in a way, a form of protection. It is not just a feeling towards someone, but it's something that makes me want the other person to be happy, that makes me want to protect the other person. So it is an emotion that gives me something. I like vanilla ice cream, but love is also what I give to others. So it's not a definition of love in general, but it's a definition of the kind of love I want to talk about. In order to clarify this concept, we can take two examples. The love of a father towards his children. This is a very rich feeling that has all the characteristics that I have mentioned. Let's think about this very sad line. When David is told that his beloved son Absalom died, he says, I would have preferred to die myself instead to have my son die. So this is the richness of the feeling I want to talk about. And then there is another kind of love, which is completely different, but just as strong, is romantic love between a man and a woman. This is a different kind of love. It is very profound, but it has also a sexual component, a component of desire. So let's make a distinction between the two. There are different kinds of love. They can all be very deep and strong, but have different characteristics. The way a man loves a woman or a woman loves a man is different from the way a mother or a father loves their children. When someone we love is wounded, suffering, or dies, we cry. So these tears are a sign of the depth of this emotion. You don't have to agree with me, but this is the kind of love I want to talk about. Well, I have to choose two verses of the Bible that represent this universe I have described. I wanted to switch the slide on. Here it is. So the first is very well known. It's the answers that Jesus gives to the Samaritan. What are the most important rules? And he says, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul. This represents the love between God and man and God. Let's take it for granted. Let's just accept this. Then there is the second kind of love. The second verse is from Song of Songs. This is another kind of love, an erotic kind of love, but it is also very deep. So these are the two main kinds of loves that we find in the Bible. But there is a third kind. So we have man towards God, God towards man. Then we have love your neighbor like you love yourself. This is not a romantic kind of love. So now to be a bit provocative, can I? Jesus doesn't quote the Leviticus in a correct way, and I'll explain you why in a while. He does this on purpose, actually. Love your neighbors as you love yourself, and then he says, I'm the Lord. There's nothing. What's the connection? What's the link between these two concepts? We will go back to this. So let's talk about the love between man and God. It seems easy. You shall love your Lord with all your soul. This is the first answer that Jesus gives. I'm being provocative, but being Jesus a very good Jewish, the first prayer that a Jewish parent teaches to his children to be recited in the morning when you wake up and in the evening before going to sleep is this prayer. So Jesus, being a Jew, would say this prayer in the morning when he woke up and in the evening before going to sleep. So this is not a surprise. But I'm going to make things a bit complicated for you, may I? Because it's not so obvious. It seems easy. The most important thing is for you to love your Lord with all your soul. Why isn't it simple? Why is it complicated? For two reasons. Now I ask you to make a difficult mind exercise for 5 minutes. Let's try and go inside the spirit of the ancient Testament. Jesus has not been born yet. The Virgin Mary is not there yet. So please try and get into this spirit. Why is it so complicated to say something that seems obvious? You have to love your Lord with all your soul. Well, the first reason why it is complicated is how can we impose a feeling upon ourselves or upon others? We can say you have to respect your master. I can think whatever I want about Father Pino, but if I am obliged to treat him respectfully, I do. I talk to him in a respectful way. But it's not possible to order someone to have certain feelings. You cannot say to your daughter, you need to get married, find someone, and then love this man and marry him. Either you fall in love or you don't. This is something that you cannot plan, that you cannot decide. Yes, there is the rule to love and to create an emotion. It's very difficult to be put into practice. How can I promise to feel certain things? I might be angry with God, at God, and you tell me that I have to love him. My parents died in a car crash. Where were you, God? So this is a very difficult thing to do, to create an emotion. Then there is a second reason why it is complicated, which is even deeper. And here really we should really get into the spirit of the Ancient Testament. So you know what I say every time, you call it the Ancient Testament, for us it is the authentic Testament. So it's actually complicated. Old Testament, only Testament. So this is how it works. Differently from any other religion, the Egyptians, the Greeks, Lord is a transcendent entity. It's not the sun, it's not a cow. It's a transcending identity. It's difficult for us to give a definition. We can only give a negative definition. We can only say what this entity is not. So let's think seriously if it is possible to love a transcending entity that does not correspond to our human experience. We are, in a way, have constraints in our emotional world. And a transcending entity is not part of it. So it is a challenge for us. How can we love and feel the love of a transcending entity? You see what the problems are here. To impose an emotion, and how can you love a transcending entity? But the Lord of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Jesus sometimes is not transcending, is immanent, which is the contrary. In these immanent moments, which we call the revelations, the Lord we know is the Lord of these moments. Jesus Christ is the perfect example of these immanent moments. For the Jews, The Mount Sinai episode is the imminent moment. You couldn't see the Lord there. Not even Moses could see the Lord there. The Torah was the imminent element. All these rules all these commandments are the imminent elements, the commandments he gave us. This is the Lord we know. So what is the final result? I give you an example. Here among you, there is a group of friends, Italian friends, called Studying the Bible with Weiler, Bible reading group. And there is another one from Poland. Every day we read a chapter of the Bible. And for them, it is, in a way, an intellectual study to understand the Bible. For me, too, but for me, it's also the only way I can connect with the Lord. Because the imminent moment is the wordification of God. This is what God is. So this obsession the Jews have to study the Torah, the first verse of the Psalms, you know it by heart, I'm sure you do. You have to study the Bible day and night. Study day and night. I didn't do it then. That even when I was at school or at the university, I wouldn't do that. But that's what God tells us, because this is the way you can be near to. You can be closer to the Lord. The Jews love the Torah because this is the gift of love that God gave us. This is the way He showed us, He loved us by giving us the Torah. In the morning prayer, that many Jews should say, but, well, not all of them do. And I'll read it because it's really beautiful. I'm looking for it. Just a second.
Quali sono le cose più importanti?
What are the most important things that a person has to do in his or her life? To honor their parents. And then number 2, charity towards the others and create peace among people. And 4, to pray. But most of all, you have to study the Torah. Is this really more important than honor your father and your mother? It is not. Well, in a way it is, because it means to be connected to God, to be thankful to God who showed His love by giving us the Torah. So this is the meaning of this prayer. Now, let's see in the Old Testament the God of love towards men. Can we go to the second slide, please? I invite you to read the text. What do you see? All the texts that talk about the love of God talk about the love of God towards His people. It is a collective kind of love that includes all the people. So we don't find the emotion of love that we are used to in our everyday life, the love, for instance, towards our children. It is very comforting to know that the Lord loves his people, and looking at the story of the Jewish people that have been chased and for over 3,000 years. So that means that God loves us because we are still here. But this is a different kind of love, this collective love. It has a different aspect. People know that if they want to enjoy the love of God, they need to be a community. Otherwise, all the promises of love vanish. But you can see that there is something different. It's a different kind of love. I don't want to make a comparison because it's not helpful, but that's the way it is. Now, let's go to the New Testament. And here, I'd like to be once more provocative. Father Pino, please bear with me. The mystery of incarnation. Why do we talk about a mystery? Because theologically it is very difficult for hundreds and hundreds of years before the incarnation. What we studied, what we understood, what we said is that God is not a man. One of your forefathers, Caesars, for instance, well, they would say, how can a man be God? It was blasphemy to say that a man could be God. So you can see that from the theological point of view, incarnation is a challenge. Well, Father Pino agrees. Well, I'm happy about that. At least someone agrees with me. But going back to the theme of loves in the Bible, we can give an explanation to understand the revolution brought about by the incarnation, because it makes it possible for us to love God in a different way, in an emotional, richer way. Let's go to the next slide, please. There are many different examples, but there are mainly two. When you see the expression of love in the gospel, you notice two things. It is often some kind of individual love. He loves Lazarus, he loves Martha, and so on. So there is something individual. It's not a collective kind of love. It is love towards a real person in flesh and blood. And you can read that when there is Lazarus, Jesus cries this expression of love by Jesus makes it possible for us to feel the love of God in a different, completely different way from what we see in the Old Testament. We're lucky that there is this opportunity. But please take note of the fact that it is different from the individual and emotional point of view. Who can not be touched by reading that Jesus Christ cried? Well, you do not find that in the Old Testament. So thinking about love, man, God, God, man, you can see that the revolution of the incarnation allows a different way to be loved and love. Let's go now to, well, you will remember, let's go back to the phrase, love your neighbor as you love yourself. I said that Jesus doesn't say, I am the Lord. So let's go on. Let's move on. We gave a general idea of this love, God, man, man, God. Let's now talk about love between human beings. Well, this is also very complicated. For instance, there are some days when I hate myself. I think maybe it happens to you as well. There are people who they don't love themselves. And they say, well, if they say, love your neighbor like you love, they say, well, then they would hate their neighbors. Well, I'm exaggerating, but you see that it isn't easy to say you have to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Starting from the assumption that I love myself, and then I have to love my neighbor as well.
So, two problems can be identified here. First, how can we rule? How can we govern, so to say, and guide an emotion? It is the very same premise that is complicated. There can be very different ways in which we love ourselves. And I'm going to be even more provocative than this. Just think of your friends and of yourselves. We do sometimes love people who love themselves, and we call them narcissistics. So is that the right way, the right model to love people? I'm just adding layers of which are more and more complicated. And here too, Jesus is providing us with the answer. Let me check. I think what I'm going to read is in the next slide. Yes, next slide, please. John chapter 34:34. Do we have that here? I think it's further down. Next slide. Next. It's further down. It's John 13. John 13, verse 34. Can we have it? Yes, we do have it. Well, what did they answer? Yes or no? Well, yes, that's the answer. Can you see how radical that is? You might have not noticed that Christ changes the very same sense, the very same meaning of the commandment. He doesn't say, do love your neighbors as you love yourself. He says, love your neighbor like I love you. And here, I mean, you see, there's a very big difference. That solves the problems I've just mentioned. So problems of narcissistic people who do not love themselves. Jesus said, you have to learn what love is from me. And this love I'm giving to you, you have to give the same love to your neighbor. And I think here lies a great deal of novelty. And he also solves the problem of the quote, because now, if we go back to Leviticus, where you read, love your neighbor as if you loved yourself, I am the Lord. Here lies the explanation. In fact, you have to love your neighbors as me, myself, the Lord, love you. Is that clear? Can you get it? Now, romantic love between men and women. This is what our audience have been waiting for long in our life. Actually, this is a question to you. Please share with us the deepest expressions of love that you've felt. I mean, if you have children, they might say the love for my children, but at the same time, they might also answer the love for our partner, be they married or not. So, romantic love, love that is accompanied by desire, that's yet another deep experience of love, and that's yet another type of love shown in the Bible. And while I was getting ready for this presentation, I discovered something that kind of struck me, even if I read the Bible many times. I had not realized that up to now. And I'm being very cautious here because I believe that I should investigate this aspect even further. So let me share with you my assumptions. So again, we're talking about romantic love. What I did was to go and study the stories of the couples in the Bible. The first thing that is worth noticing is that from a cultural standpoint, if you think of the greatest novels in Western literature, almost always these novels are about a great love story. Odysseus is very fashionable at the moment. Anna Karenina. Just think of the greatest novels. Almost always in these novels you have a love relationship between a man and a woman. And I think that it is probably here that you can find the definition of what great literature is. There are so we apologize, but the sound quality is very poor. There are some technical problems.
Il mio funziona, ma io...
Grazie, grazie.
Thank you very much.
Ce l'ha fatta?
Allora, prima è una cosa strana.
This is something strange. The Bible certainly offers great is certainly a great literature piece of work, but the relationship between men and women is not the biggest story in the Bible. So let us zoom in and analyze what big love stories there are in the Bible. Adam and Eve. The word love is not mentioned. There is no indication whatsoever that Adam loved Eve or the other way around. They go to bed together, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's love. It doesn't exist. Then let's move on. Abraham and Sarah. They are married. But, I mean, their marriage was very complicated. So when they went to Egypt, he told his wife that he reproached his wife because he told her, "You are a concubine to the king of Egypt, and now I can see actually how beautiful you are." And this is something that I had never noticed before. This is what's written in the Bible, and that's very difficult to tell your wife. Based on my interpretation of their love, actually, in my view, Abraham's real love was Hagar. And I'm saying this because when Sarah dies, he comes to bury her, and he comes from the place where Hagar was. So at least that was a very complicated love story. Abraham respected that, but actually it's very difficult to find romantic love in that relationship. I have yet another example for you. When the Lord tells Sarah, "You're going to be pregnant and Isaac will come," and she laughs. Isaac in Jewish means laughing. And as a matter of fact, Sarah laughed after she was given this news. She basically, are you implying that I'm going to be pregnant of him? He's already very old. That means that they hadn't had sex and that they hadn't made love for lots of time. But when she died, he already had 4 or 5 children. So should I add anything else to this? That means that that was not great love, a great love. Now, Isaac and Rebecca. For the first time in this case, we read that Isaac loved Rebecca. That was clearly uttered, and there was also an explanation. It is stated in the Bible that Isaac's love for Rebecca helped him in a way, overcome the death of his mother. So we might say that was a great love story, but there's something missing there. What would you like to listen to now? Now I would like also to read in the Bible that Rebecca loved Isaac, that she reciprocated his love, but that was not the case. There is no expression of Rebecca's love towards Isaac whatsoever in the Bible. So that was an asymmetrical kind of love. And as a matter of fact, Rebecca, she is my heroine. She's the real patriarch. I think a couple of years ago we discussed this. I mean, she's the real patriarch. She's the one who decided. Very good girl, very good woman, a good patriarch. It is thanks to Rebecca that Jacob was saved. But as far as love is concerned, well, that was not said. And then Jacob, that's yet another formidable expression of love. Jacob had to wait for 7 years. He saw Rachel on the well, near the well, and he immediately fell in love. There was love at first sight for him. So there was love at first sight. And then Rachel's father said, no, you have to wait for 7 years. And the Bible said that those 7 years passed as if they were 7 days. So that was really, truly a great love. But what's missing here? Did Rachel love Jacob? No. There is no mention of that, no indication of this in the Bible. There is no indication of Rachel's reciprocating him in the Bible. As a matter of fact, he was a bit grumpy, and as a matter of fact, Jacob even protested because of this. She was jealous of her sister because her sister had children, and that's yet another example of asymmetrical love that does not correspond. It doesn't match our ideal of a romantic love. Again, let's move on. Shem and Dinah's love. So Shem loving Jacob's daughter. Expressis verbis, it is stated that Shem loved Dinah. And that's quite complicated here. I mean, you know the Bible by heart, but actually he loved her after having raped her. Is this love? So you first rape the woman and then you tell her, I love you? Well, that's horrible. That's really terrible. That's not love at all. That's quite complicated. So we would like actually to find an example of a romantic relationship full of emotions with both partners reciprocating their feelings and so on. And no example can be found, has been found so far. Let's look at another example. Samson and Delilah. So Samson and Delilah. Well, actually, only the oldest ones know what I'm talking about. Just actually go to YouTube, digit in Tom Jones and Delilah. Not now, after the session. Same thing. I mean, for him, it was love at first sight, but she was manipulative. She betrayed him. Is this an example of romantic love? I don't think so. Would you like to have yet another example? Michal, King Saul's daughter. She fell in love with David. And that was true love. Because she takes risks, not today's risks. So, for example, your partner actually comes to your place when your parents are already asleep and so on. And she really took a big risk because she hides David. And when her father, and this exactly when her father is looking for him to kill him, so she saves his life. That's true love. It's not only words. She shows that she loves him because she takes on huge risks. And how about David towards Michal? That's indignation, that's disdain. So the love was not reciprocated. This was a story that didn't end well. At the very end, she realized that she made a mistake in falling in love with him. You probably know a couple of years ago, we talked about the fact that David was lucky not to fall prey of her hands. I mean, this sinner who raped Bathsheba killed her husband and killed her husband. So yet a very complicated character. Probably Michal was lucky. She was lucky not to fall prey of David. Of course, I am exaggerating. He was sincere at the very end of his life, but at the beginning, he was a sinner. And his love for Bathsheba stemmed from a deadly sin. Well, basically, he went against the 3 commandments, the desire for the wife of his friend, then he raped, and he killed her husband. So can we truly say that that was an example of romantic love, that between Michal and David? And let me give you yet another example, the last one. I wouldn't like to, exaggerate too much. Let's talk about the last example of Ammon and Tamar, David's children. They're not siblings. They have different mothers. So Ammon falls in love with Tamar. And you can easily imagine what he does. He rapes her. What kind of love is that? There are tiny exceptions. In the New Testament, there are some tiny stories, subtle stories that might induce you to think that those were stories characterized by love, but these are really exceptions. If you look at the Bible as a great example of literature, well, that main topic, which is so prevalent in lay literature, that of a great love between a man and a woman, is not so present in the Bible. And I would like to end with one consideration. If this is the case, if this is true, but like I said at the beginning that these are my assumptions. If this is true, I have to study more. But me myself, I was very much surprised to discover this. I was surprised by the fact that I couldn't find any example of a main character of the Bible feeling romantic love. What kind of lesson can we draw from the Bible? Any suggestions from the audience? Who would like to share their views? I mean, if you start from my preliminary assumption, I'm being quite skeptical when I say that the Bible itself is quite skeptical itself towards the idea of romantic love. So what kind of speculations would you have there? I'd like to share my view on this with you. I think that probably the message is that true love, rich love, long-lasting love can only be the love between man and God and man. Thank you very much.
Grazie a te, Gio.
Thank you very much, Joseph. You were perfectly on time. And at the same time, you provided us with a great and wide overview and with lots of interesting remarks and food for thought. There's two ideas you shared with us I'd like to comment on, which is really touching. The first one is really touching. In a very decisive way, and yet in a cautious way, you basically talked about the surprise that can be renewed every day, which is the surprise of a God that has donated himself so much so as to share our human condition. And it is, if you allow me, I believe that there's one element which is very touching. If we open up to this mysterious possibility, which is the reality of an encounter, it is touching to check that one is available to be faithful to that approach with which, for the first time in the history of mankind, God actually involved himself with the history of a people. The most probably outrageous thing of all, and the very same root of terrible hate, a terrible form of hate that is shown not so much vis-à-vis governments, but rather vis-à-vis a people. A people because it was a chosen. So the scandal here is that we're dealing with a God here who loves, and since he loves, he chooses. So the idea here is that every one of us is not the result of an algorithm, but that he or she is loved. In this respect, I'd like to conclude by saying to talk about verse 3, chapter 31 of Jeremiah, always mentioned by Giussani as the constant possibility of discovering an intangible existence of our experience of our existence, of noticing the paradox of a God who is transcending, who at the same time gets involved in an unimaginable way with man, and who is involved in the destiny of each single human being. I loved you. I love you of an eternal love. And that is why I continue pulling you towards me, because I have mercy of the fact that you are nothing. I really hope that today's session can help us all to consider the gratuitous nature of a continuous initiative, of God's continuous initiative, looking for our heart. This is a gratuitous gift. He's looking for our reply. So just remember the conclusion of the end of Father Giussani's speech before Pope John Paul II in 1998, with God a beggar of the heart of man and man's heart begging for the heart of God. I would like to thank once again Joseph wholeheartedly. I would like to ask you, on the occasion of the next meeting, please find an easier topic to talk about. If I tell you that I love you, I mean, what category do you assign me? It's friendship and paternity. That's my answer.
Concludo tradizionalmente.
I would like to conclude by thanking everybody for their kind participation. I would like to thank in particular the people present here, and I would like to remind you that there's a possibility of supporting the Rimini meeting with the Dona Ora initiative, labeled with the red heart. This is something that can help us support the work of the Rimini meeting. It will continue, especially after yesterday. We have a great responsibility of continuing our work. The Rimini Meeting Foundation is a third sector entity, which means that if you support the Rimini meeting, you can enjoy tax benefits as well. Thank you very much for your kind attention and participation. And thanks again to Joseph Weiler, and enjoy the other sessions of the Rimini meeting.
Questo è un luogo che genera dialogo,
Qualcuno che si impegna, che si batte.
che approfondisce la conoscenza e sostiene la fiducia. È un crocevia dove si incontra chi desidera il vero, il bello, il giusto e il bene. È una testimonianza di speranza nel cuore ferito del presente. E tutto questo esiste anche grazie a te.